What up, big dogs? I'm your host, Coach Craig, and this is Athletes Unleashed. On today's episode, my guest is a high school student and standout soccer player. We break down her journey to finding her confidence, the pregame rituals that used to control her mindset, the game-changing decision to start working with a mentality coach, and committing to play Division II college soccer. Please enjoy my conversation with Magee.
No, it's fine. It's so funny. It's just funny. Like, he asked a 3-year-old like dance lessons or donuts, and I don't see myself dancing like ever again. Like, no. I don't see a future in dance. Like, I'm glad I chose soccer. I chose soccer.
Yeah, when you were five. That's all right. Well, I mean, yeah.
I don't regret it, though.
I can see giving a 3-year-old the choice between dancing and donuts. Like, it's pretty obvious what they're gonna choose.
Yeah.
But it's good. So you chose soccer at 5. It's the only sport that you've played, right? And I don't know, like, do you have any reservations or regrets, like wishing that you tried other sports, or?
I don't think so.
No.
I really love soccer.
You really love soccer.
I really love soccer.
And for like someone who's as committed as you are, you play pretty much year round. So you're a star on your club team, you're a high school star, you just committed to play Division II for Biola in college. So you're in, finishing senior year right now, graduating. So that's very exciting. One thing that I noticed with you right away, and where I've seen your growth as an individual, when I met you, you're a freshman in high school, you were a little bit shy, a little bit reserved. And like, when I got to know you, I was like, oh, Issa's very funny. Like, she's very outgoing. But just in groups, it was less so. Yeah. You were a little reserved. And I've seen that kind of evolution happen throughout the years. You're a senior now. You're one of the spirit leaders for the school. You were homecoming queen. You're a mainstay at the school, like not only socially, but like athletically. And I've seen that confidence kind of rise as a young person, kind of come into your own. And there was like a specific moment in last season that I kind of remember everything kind of clicked, where I was like, oh, Issa has arrived. Yeah. But I know that process for confidence was not easy for you. Yeah. And you're more confident in your personal life now, but it wasn't that case, and I think it started on the soccer field. So can you take us through like that process of not only identifying that you had a confidence issue, how you addressed it, and then now how you're able to carry on the other side?
Yeah. So I really hit a low confidence. I stopped believing in myself, and it all tied to like a routine I had that I'd do before every soccer game. I'd eat the same foods. I'd wear the same like cleats, shin guards, do everything the night before, like exactly the same. And if I didn't do everything the exact same, I didn't think I'd perform well on the field, which is like so silly because they don't correspond in any way.
Yeah, but as an athlete, I've been there where it's like, I got to put the same sock on. There's a process, and I feel like I don't know, it's like a kind of a getting ready thing.
Yeah, but it would be to the point where I'd eat like my food would be a sandwich, a Hawaiian roll, turkey, and egg. And it got to the point where I actually like despised eating it, and I wanted to like throw up every time I saw turkey. I'd be like please get away from me. But I'd eat it anyways because I really thought like it helped me to do good on the field. It's so funny to think about right now, but
now that you're past it, it's kind of funny. But.
But I really like was so like I had to do this routine every time, like, or else I wasn't gonna play well. And if I made a mistake on the field, then I'd go back to my routine and be like, what did I do wrong in my routine? Like, what haven't I done to make me do good in the field? And I stopped believing in my own abilities and just trusting a routine to make me do good.
When you made mistakes in game, were you even thinking about what happened in the game? Like, were you trying to be like analytical or like tactically analytical to try and figure out like, okay, how could I have been better? Or was it specifically like, it must have been something that I forgot to eat or forgot to fold perfectly? Or
It was that. It was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't do something in my routine. Like I'm gonna do bad the rest of this game just because I didn't do my routine right. Instead of, okay, Issa, you accidentally took a bad touch
Mm-hmm.
and it went to the other team. Like
Well,
everyone makes those mistakes, just get it back. It was more just like, oh my God, I'm gonna do bad the rest of the game. And it was just a negative
the way you
spiral.
described it, I thought you meant like post game. You were reflecting. This is in the middle of
In
the
the
game.
middle of the game. So it just made everything worse. Like I just snowballed from there and it was negativity. And then like I just got stuck in my mind. And I got to the point where I was so miserable with the routine that I told my parents, like, I need to stop. I need to, like, it started with, I need to stop eating this food because it's making me sick before the games. Like, where I was feeling really sick before the games. I was like, I need to stop. Like, we need to figure this out.
So it was you who told them, I got to stop this. But I have to imagine your parents, like dad's a coach, like mom's a teacher, like they're very aware, like I'm sure they see kids all the time. Yeah. They must have been aware that this was affecting you in a way, but was like, were you freaking out to a point where they felt like if they didn't do it, it was going to be like potentially harmful for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think they kind of let me do my own thing because it calmed me because I'm a very nervous and anxious person. So I had a lot of nerves before games, like since I was young. Like it's just how I was. And we always made it acceptable to have nerves because nervous energy is good energy. But I think I didn't like, what's the word? I didn't acknowledge the nerves in a way more like, okay, I'm going to use them. More like it was like, how do I get rid of these nerves? We're going to do this routine. And they kind of respected how I approached that. And I think as it built on, they didn't want to like stop it because it's just been such a long thing that's been happening.
They're trying to let you figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
That's good though. I think that's an important point is I like nervous energy is good energy, but acknowledging that you are nervous and that it's okay to be nervous. And that, I think that's one thing that a lot of people kind of overlook is that everybody kind of gets nerves before games, even professionals and people who have been doing it forever. Being nervous, like for some people, like nerves equal excitement. Like if you're nervous about something that you care about, that's what I tell some people sometimes, like, oh, I'm nervous. And it's like, yeah, because you care about this. Like it's good to be nervous. You're excited about it. You want to perform well. And you're, it's sometimes you get into your head a little bit, but it sounds like you had kind of gone down a path. Like, to me, it's interesting that you were correlating the play on the field specifically to whether or not you'd completed the routine.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you were in the midst of it, if that you did the routine perfectly, you actually played better?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
So you had like kind of tricked yourself into belief, like you'd lost confidence in yourself, except you could kind of
gain it. Like it was just like a little mind trick. Like I've always had that confidence, but I only like let it show when I did a routine right.
Interesting.
Which is just so silly. Like it's so silly saying it out loud. Like,
yeah, but you were younger. Like I can see where you're in a place where I'm sure, like even personally, like in your social life, you're a teenage kid. Like you might not have had the confidence that you wanted to have, and you were like, oh, this is like it's like a superpower. Like if I do these things, all of a sudden, like I engage a different level of play that is not readily available to me. So when you decided, like, okay, you told your parents, I need to stop doing this. I can't imagine the routine stopped in its entirety.
No.
So it was like a slow process. Yeah. So how did that?
So our coach, my club coach, he actually had us see this mindset coach, Cindy, and this was like a couple months before, and my mom and I asked for her card because that was like when I was starting to suffer like with confidence and stuff. Then my mom was like, okay, how about we visit this lady? And there was actually a teammate on my team who had seen her before, so we were like, okay, we trust her, we're gonna give her a shot. And we had the first meeting with her, it was my parents and her, and she really just talked me through and explained to me like what I'm feeling is normal. Like a lot of kids go through lacking confidence and finding it in different ways, and routines are normal. She explained other like where this kid had to have his shoes like in the specific order.
Sure.
But it had nothing to do with how he performed on the basketball court. It was just something he did. And it made me feel comfortable to talk to her about these things.
Yeah, realizing you're not alone. I think it's funny, like as an athlete, you get so hyper focused on what you have to do to prepare and what you need to do to be ready. When the reality is you've already done most of the preparation. Like, you're doing all these practices, you're putting in all the work. It's already done. Putting on your shoes in a specific order isn't going to change what happens out there. And like, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have superstitions. Like, people want to wear, it's my lucky thing or whatever. But the reality, I mean, and that might give you a little bit of a placebo effect that, like, I'm going to play better or I don't know. I can attest to the same thing where when I didn't quite have a routine as strict as that, but there were definitely things that I wanted to do. I'm a goalkeeper. It's like I got to go touch each post or whatever, something simple. Or, I played baseball. Baseball players are especially, you don't step on the lines when you're going onto the field. And it's like, that doesn't matter. Like, in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. But when you're a kid or even like as an adult, there are certain things that people do that just make them feel better. So when you met with the mentality coach, you said your coach, did he bring you guys like as a team to meet with her?
Yeah, he like did a beach day and we just talked with her about our mindset and stuff. And then,
So when you first meet with her, she kind of like opens your world.
Yeah.
She like, it sounds like she put everything into context for you. And I think sometimes we get caught up in what we're doing and the cause and effect of it, and we lose the context. So take me back to that first meeting. She's helping you kind of work through what's going on, and she tells you you're not alone.
Yeah, and then it was basically like, she was like, okay, so I have a plan. Like, we're going to go back and like figure out like why you started this routine and how we're slowly going to get rid of it.
Okay.
And it started, like I said, started with the food. She was like, why did we start eating this food? And I was like, because it was the only food I could eat before games when I was younger because I had a sensitive stomach. And she's like, okay, like, what, like, have you tried any other foods? I'm like, no. She's like, are you serious? You've been sticking to this food like every game? And I was like, every weekend. And she's like, okay, we're going to figure out like different foods you could eat. So she gave me options. She's like, instead of a Hawaiian roll, how about we try a bagel? Instead of turkey, let's just not try turkey anymore because you're like actually disgusted by it. And she gave me like different things to do. And it kind of like made me realize like I could do this. Like I could eat a bagel before a game. I could.
You're like, oh, there are other options.
I could have a PB and jelly. Like it's fine to do that. And she really made me remember that I'm a soccer player who's been playing for a while, who's been practicing, like you said, who's been training, and I don't need to rely on outside factors to perform in the game. And she really helped me gain my confidence again because like we would go through mistakes I made in the game and she would help me instead of referring back to the routine, she would be like, okay, what did you actually do wrong? I made a pass that was too predictable. Okay, how can we fix that? Just do something else. Like like dribble instead maybe. And it was kind of like, why am I sticking to this routine? And once she like started going through and like discussing like my mistakes, I was like, okay, I don't need this routine to fix that. Like, and as that went on, we kept meeting. It'd be like, I think every month, I want to say.
Yeah.
And we just kept meeting. And it got to the point where I was like, I didn't need her anymore. Like my routine was like gone. There were still parts I had, but like silly parts and like stuff like I'd roll out the night before, but like I feel like that's necessary to.
Well, there's difference in routine that can actually help your performance and routine that is specifically because you have convinced yourself.
Yeah.
It sounds like she kind of took the blinders off.
Yeah.
Because I know with kids like yourself, they get a little bit of tunnel vision. And especially when you're nervous about a game or you have something big coming up or you're just like, you're so desiring to perform, you can get really hyper-focused on every little thing that I can do to give me an edge. When the reality is doing stuff like rolling out your muscles or getting extra rest, or those are the things that will actually give you an edge.
Yeah.
Eating a turkey sandwich is not going to do it. And like religiously, I imagine you had games on Saturdays and Sundays, so we're eating the same foods multiple
Yes,
times during the weekend.
it was so bad.
Yeah, but that's why I wanted to talk to you
Mhm,
about it, because I feel like there's probably other kids out there who are doing similar things
mhm.
or are doing things that they don't even realize are dedicated routines where they're like, oh, I don't need to do that.
Mhm.
And they're correlating that negative spiral to something that really has no connection
Yeah.
whatsoever. And I do health and wellness coaching, and as a mentality coach, it's nice to hear that she got you to a point where you can say, I don't need her
Yeah.
anymore. Do
Yeah.
you still ever talk to her?
So I have one more meeting left with her, and I've been putting it off. The last time I talked to her, like I updated her about my life. She was
Hmm.
like, I told her about homecoming and how I'm a heart boy, and then I've told her about like on the soccer field how I've just been more confident, and because I used to take things very personal,
Hmm.
especially with my club coach. Like if he got on me, I'd be like, oh my god, he hates me.
Yeah.
No, it's just he wants me to get better. If a teammate yelled at me, I'd be like, oh my god, she hates me.
Yeah.
Again, we're like, I don't have to love her. We're just on the field together
Yeah.
we're as teammates. We're trying to win the game. She yelled at me, it was in the moment. It's not that personal.
Well, and I think situations like that, it does take some time to understand, but
Mhm,
coaches that are, in most cases,
mhm,
coaches that are like that push you really hard or are focused on you and are trying to get you to be better, it's normally because they know what you're capable
mhm.
of and they have high expectations
Yeah,
for you, and they're trying to get you to play at a level that
yeah,
you are capable of reaching. Same with teammates.
yeah.
When they know what you can do and maybe you're not performing, or when you perform at your best, you make them look great,
Mhm.
and vice versa. It's difficult sometimes, and they will lash out because they know what you can do.
Yeah.
And when you're not reaching that capability, it's frustrating.
Mhm.
But I would tell people, your coaches or your teammates don't hate you. It's more likely that they're very invested in you and they want to see you perform, and they're trying to get that performance
Yeah.
out of you.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of younger players, there is a lot of taking
Mhm.
things personal. I think in people's lives in general, like when people are trying to help you and maybe they're not going about it in the best
Yeah.
way, it can be personally devastating
Mhm.
to hear somebody criticize you.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, especially if you're a really high level player, or if your coach is very dedicated to you, that criticism is often constructive, and they're wanting you to be able to see what you did and how you can modify it to be able to perform better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just like updated her on my life, and
Hmm.
she like really was proud of me because of like how long I've like come.
Hmm.
We like went back to the first meeting. She like took her notes out from the first meeting.
Wow.
She's like, Issa, like you used to be so like shy and timid and you didn't believe in yourself. And now look at you, like, and it really like in perspective, I was like, oh my God, like I did that. And it was so small in like hindsight, but to me it was just such like a big moment to be able to say like, yeah, I stopped with the routine. I've grown more confident in myself on and off the field. And now I'm going like to college and I'm gonna be more independent. I'm able to know that I could handle these things on my own.
Yeah.
And I don't need someone like people will always be there to talk to, but I don't
Sure.
need to actually go to them. I could really handle these things on my own and figure it out on my own.
How did it make you feel to see the progress that you'd made?
Like really great. Like I was really proud of myself.
Does that then end up boosting your confidence even more?
Yeah. Cause like now when I make a mistake on the field, it's not like I'm like going into this negative spiral. I'm able to deal with it
Hmm.
and figure out in the moment instead of
Yeah.
before what I used to do.
That's why something that, especially for me with goalkeepers, but working with players a lot,
Mhm,
is the ability to process what just happened.
mhm,
You're like, mistakes are inevitable.
mhm,
No one has a perfect game.
mhm,
Like, it's just, if you do, it's a fleeting thing.
mhm,
It's very rare.
mhm,
You're gonna make a mistake.
mhm,
You're gonna make a bad pass. You're gonna dive in when you shouldn't. You know, regardless of the sport you play, mistakes are inevitable. They're
mhm.
going to happen. So, can you process what just happened? Can you learn from it, especially if it's going to impact the rest of the game? Can we take the information, analyze it quickly, and then be like, okay, I'm going to make a modification,
Mhm.
or understand, hey, it was a great play by the other team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I tell goalkeepers all the time, sometimes somebody hits a really good shot on you and there's nothing you can do. And you have to be able to say, okay, that happened, process it, and then move forward.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they make a mistake, they let it weigh on them throughout the game. And then all of a sudden that negative spiral, whether it be because you didn't eat your sandwich or because you're focused on what just happened. One of the things that I try to ingrain with my goalkeepers is don't let the mistake you made before cost you another goal.
Yeah.
If you got scored on or you made a mistake, that's okay. But if you're allowing that mistake to then compound and create additional mistakes, okay, now it's a problem.
Yeah.
And so that processing, being able to understand what you did and move on, it's not only a very effective skill to have, but I think it also is kind of contagious.
Yeah.
Other people see you do it and be like, oh, Issa's fine. Like, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
I
agree.
So do you notice that on the field now with your confidence? Do you feel like other people kind of feeding off of it?
Definitely. Yeah. And I feel like it just, like you said, like a good energy because now we know, like, okay, that was just a mistake. Let's move on. Like, let's keep going.
You're in a better headspace.
Yeah. And I'm not like, okay, what do they think about me that I made a mistake? Oh no, like I made a mistake. They think I suck. Like, no, they're my teammates. Like you said, we all make mistakes. Like, and together, let's just do it.
It's their job to pick you up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's, especially as a team sport, like you are supposed to support each other. If you make a mistake, you got your team behind you, like, and sometimes that mistake costs the team, but you can't let it get you down. You have to push forward. And the reality is you don't get to win every game. It's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
And for me, losing is a huge part of playing sports and understanding loss and how to get better from it, I think is a really valuable tool as well. And your confidence journey was kind of that, understanding, coming to terms with why you were feeling the way you were, realizing like, oh, I have to start making modifications, and then coming out on the other side and being like, oh, I could have been doing this all along.
Yeah.
But I think that process makes it more valuable in the end because now you feel, you've had that ability all along. It's like, oh, I can access it whenever I want. And you become a better player because of it. So I know that confidence not only carries over on the soccer field, but also in your personal life.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I mean, I wonder if the moment that I'm talking about last year coincides with you working with her. It was a bus ride home.
Bus ride? Oh.
Yes.
The bus ride?
Yes. We don't have to get into it, but
I love the bus ride.
I know.
That was the moment where you realized?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I thought you like realized that like the Westlake game, like the very first time we played them.
I think,
or not the first, like
there were a number of moments. It was not on the soccer field. Like your play on the soccer field, I've never doubted you as a player. Your ability on the field is very impressive. Like you make great decisions, and there are some people who overplay sometimes. They're trying really hard to do all the right things, and it ends up kind of biting them.
Yeah.
You are the opposite. Like when I watch you play, it's always like it looks like you're about to overplay, and then it's like the perfect kind of thing, like the perfect weighted pass or the perfect, like you say, you're tall and you're strong, but you don't foul a lot, and you're very like you have good spatial awareness, and you're able to win balls without fouling, and it's a very useful skill.
Yeah.
And so I always knew you were technical on the soccer field. For me, it was more seeing you evolve as an individual.
Outside.
Yeah, where I was just like, oh, like that is the confident person that I've spoken with.
Yeah.
Where it's like when we're one-on-one, there's nobody else to judge you.
Yeah.
So there's just a moment where I was like, oh, Issa's in her bag. Like,
yeah, I think I started talking to Cindy a little bit before, like I would think it was like last year, but before it was right when high school season started. Right when high school season started.
So club season had ended. It was kind of like at the worst point.
Yeah, it was like, man, that was a tough season, really low. And then I was like, okay, let's go into high school. And, high school season happened. And I think I was able to gain my confidence while talking to Cindy and then playing with the Heart Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think confidence is something that a lot of people struggle with, a lot of athletes struggle with, and whether it be confidence coming back from injury or confidence making mistakes in game or the nerves pregame. I mean, when I played, it was always, I was super nervous before games, but as soon as the game started, it all went away. I knew once the whistle blew that I would be ready to go. So like, I think that's how I had convinced myself. Like, it was okay that I was nervous because I knew once the game starts, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I think other people process it differently. But I actually learned about your mentality coach from your mom, who I don't know if at the time she was sure you wanted her to share that with me. But once I found out about it, I was like, that's something that I want to talk to you about, because I think there are a lot of people who don't even know that mentality coaches are out there to help you. And some people are really reluctant to accept help in that way. You know, one of the reasons why I want to have conversations like this, and one of the big things that I do with a lot of players that I talk to, is talk about mental state and mentality and how they feel. Because when you're playing with your teammates, you don't really talk about how you feel. You know what I mean? If you're not having a good game, or if you play really poorly, you don't really want to talk to anyone. So I think normalizing the conversation about mentality, mental health, emotional health, confidence is important, so that other people who are younger might be able to catch that earlier and not have to suffer with it so long. Because I feel like you shouldn't have to get to a point where you're force feeding yourself
Miserable
to make yourself feel confident. Because even though you were lifting your confidence up in those moments, you were making yourself feel terrible. So it couldn't have been resulting in good play. And I want other people to understand, like, you might not always be confident, but there is a process to finding yourself and gaining that, and it improving your game. So you mentioned you're going to college. And you're excited. Are you looking forward to the independence and also like the step up in difficulty of playing?
For sure. Like, definitely independence, like being away from like home and just being on my own for a bit. And I feel very comfortable in myself now. I feel like before I was just like, I wanted to be around people because I couldn't stand being alone as much, just because like my confidence was so low. Like I was just kind of like, who am like not who am I, but like, what do I have to offer to myself? Versus like with other people I could feed off of. But like I've been able to kind of be on my own for a bit and just kind of like.
When you were alone, did you feel like you were just overthinking everything?
Yeah.
So were you just sitting at home, thoughts spiraling all the time?
Yeah, and it was kind of like, well, I don't like this. Like, I'd rather be out and about doing something with my friends. So I'm not like thinking about all these thoughts in my head.
Yeah, it's a bit of a distraction to be able to hang with your friends, and you can kind of redirect those feelings.
But now it's like I have those thoughts, but then I have better ones, and it's what I want to focus on. And I'd rather focus on the better ones and just enjoy my own company.
That's great. I like that, though. I like understanding that you still have negative thoughts. It's not like they've gone away, but you know how to operate with them now. You know how to not get stuck in them and actually redirect yourself into a more positive mindset. And I think that's a big thing, is understanding like there is no magic fix, but it's a process. You're going to continue to grow and continue to gain confidence throughout your life. And there's going to be things that come along that knock it down a little bit. It's inevitable in the way life treats you sometimes, but
how you choose to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I really wanted you to be able to tell your story of gaining your confidence, because even through all of that, you still were a great player. But I think especially like people don't see you suffering. And as athletes, we're trained to not show weakness and not show suffering. And so it's like even your best friends that you play with, did they know what you were going through?
I think like maybe some of them like noticed, because I listen to the same music. Like when Nat would take me to like high school games, like I'd always like, she'd play music and I loved her music, but in my mind I was like, I gotta listen to my music.
My playlist has to go.
So I'd go and like I'd always eat like an orange. So she like probably noticed that I'd always do the same thing, but I don't think she like thought anything of it. Like probably like, okay, that's her thing. Leave her do her thing.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to notice the routine. It's another thing to think like, oh, she's suffering.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people, and not just athletes, I think people in general tend to suffer in silence because they don't want to burden other people. and they don't want people to feel bad for them,
Yeah.
and they don't want to admit to themselves that they have a problem.
Yeah.
And so, for me as a coach, I try and seek that out. I try and see who's struggling
Mhm.
and contribute where I can, but it's a testament to you being able to kind of shield everybody from what you were going through. I had no idea.
Mhm.
I watched you play. I didn't see any confidence
Yeah.
issues. I just, you were just playing.
Yeah.
But you're in your mind, you're like spiraling.
Yeah.
And I think it's a pretty universal feeling for everybody at one point or another when things aren't going your way. Your mind just takes you to the worst places where you're just like, should I even be on the field? Am I even good?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
I know as a young person, it's not easy to deal with that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you've taken those steps and come forward. And I really think it's important for people to understand the negative thoughts don't go away, but you get better at managing them.
Exactly.
The mistakes don't go away, but you get better at managing them.
Exactly.
I'm excited for you, dude. I very much respect the way that you handle your business. You're an incredibly hard worker. I think that's the other thing is like, you got to remind yourself, I did all the work.
Yeah.
I put in the work.
Yeah.
I go to practice every day. I work out. I do all those things so that I can have confidence in the game. And sometimes we forget that.
I definitely forgot that, like, during my journey, like, all the stuff I did, and, like, I left it to a routine, but then I realized all that stuff I did, I want to be good. I want to play this sport, and I want to, don't know where it's going, but.
Yeah, no, but I think that's the
like,
thing. The routine, if you kind of zoom out a little bit, like you had this very fixated and tunnel vision of the routine that was necessary to go right before the game. But if you zoom out, it's like, oh, you had a routine, a much healthier routine where you were practicing and putting in the extra work and doing all these things. I mean, your dad posts videos of you working out all the time where it's like, you're clearly putting in a lot of extra time and extra work, which I think for an athlete at your level is an expectation at this point. You have to do those things if you want to be able to compete with people at the level. Even people who are incredibly like naturally gifted, there's still a level of work that you have to put in to be able to compete with other people at that level. So just reminding yourself, like, before games is like, dude, this is what we practice for.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always say when I can tell goalkeepers are nervous or players are nervous, I always say, we do this every day. We've already done, every day we do this. We do this like it's our job.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to hear that you've come through it and to see the personal growth as well, because that's a nice little bonus for you.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. College is on the horizon, but I'm glad that you're able to share that story and be comfortable sharing it, because it's not always easy to share our kind of darkest moments where it's like, man, I was really in a bad way and I do not feel good about that. Yeah. So I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that with everyone, because it's not easy, but I know there are kids out there who are dealing with the same thing right now.
Yeah. I was talking with my mom and dad, like, about what I was going to talk with you about. And they're like, sure you want to, like, share this? Like, you're going to be very vulnerable. And I was like, yeah, but I remember Sydney told me, like, I wasn't alone. Like, what if another kid needed to hear this? Like, I can't just, like, this is something that was really personal for me, but I want it to be very helpful for other people. So
and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I agree. It's one of the reasons why I used to have conversations with kids and be like, wow, I wish that was recorded, or I wish I could play that for another kid because someone else I just talked to had the same issue. And what I started to realize was like, oh man, all these kids are going through something similar. And wouldn't it be nice to hear somebody that you can look at and be like, wow, she's a great player. She got a college scholarship. Like, there's people out there who are achieving and doing the things that other people want to do, who are struggling with the same stuff. And it's like, if they can do it, so can you. So I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your story. It's not easy. Yeah. But I do think it's going to help people, which is the reason I wanted to do stuff like this anyway. So I'm very grateful for you. So thank you, Issa.
Of course.
I like to wrap up every episode by asking a piece of advice, which you've already given quite a bit, which is good. So if you've got some advice for someone who may be going through a crisis of confidence or something similar, or wants to achieve things that you've gotten, what would your piece of advice be?
Probably just like, you belong out on that field. Just remember that and remember all you went through, and your ability to perform is there. You just got to believe in yourself.
Yeah. That's good.
So corny.
No,
So
but it's,
corny.
you know, it's funny though. Like a lot of the advice that people give is simple stuff like
Yeah.
that. But as corny as it might be, we forget those things.
Yeah.
You forget that you belong out there. You forget that you put in the hard work and that you need to believe in yourself. And sometimes you got to pump yourself up to be able to go out and perform at the highest levels. And so, yeah, it might be a little corny, but the reality is like remembering that you're not only like you deserve to be out there, you put in the work, but you're worthy of being out there. And it's okay to have crisis of confidence sometimes, but and to doubt yourself. Like you're always going to have doubts. But in that moment when you step on the field, just remember like you belong there. I think that's wonderful. And who cares if it's corny? I don't care. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, so thank you.
Thanks.
Good job. A big thank you to our guest, Issa Magee, our producer, Malin Blade, and all the big dogs listening. Tune into our next episode for more Athletes Unleashed. Later, homies.